Welcome back to Right on the Money, providing you and your family the necessary information you need to make informed financial decisions. Now, if you're just joining us, our guest today, Steve Caruso, founder of Laurel Wealth Solutions and senior wealth manager at Bell Point Asset Management, also author of the new book, Cookie Cut This. Now, Steve, we've been talking about a lot of awesome things, the book especially, but we were just talking about what some people refer to as the bucket approach. The short term, the intermediate, the long term. And I have a question. I forgot to ask this in the last segment, but what makes up that long-term bucket?
So the long-term bucket is typically going to be stocks, stock mutual funds, exchange-traded funds like index funds, growth-type assets. One of the things that a lot of financial advisors overlook, even ones that do the bucket approach, is that outside your 401k, you have an even bigger asset. And this is tying back to the well-defined goal.
Right.
Your biggest asset is your home.
Oh, that is a great point.
So if you have a well-defined goal, and as part of your goal, you know that you want to downsize, well then the equity in your home is actually a growth asset, because you're going to be selling that house and buying a smaller house, and there's going to be leftover money that can be put aside for growth to help keep pace with inflation, to keep pace with the changes in healthcare, potentially tax law changes. So in that case, your house is a growth bucket option.
That's interesting. I would have never thought of that as a growth bucket option.
Right. In another way, your house could be an income option. So when I meet with someone and if they tell me their intention is to stay in their home, and not to sound like Tom Selleck, but if they don't have other income and they want to stay in their home, they could use a reverse mortgage as an income solution.
So they do have that as an option.
Again, a reverse mortgage is one of the most hated financial products by, but in the right situation, it could be a perfectly good solution.
Your book does such a magnificent job of going through these different financial tools that are available, these different vehicles, and fairly present. That is what I really appreciate, the pro and the con. There's no bias one way or the other. There's good, there's bad, and making sure that you're aware of it. So when we're looking at that long-term bucket, and it's made up of stocks and stock mutual funds and such, when does somebody know when to reallocate? Because right now the market has been high and running really hot for a while, so when do you know?
So the whole theory with the growth bucket is that you're going to be able to pick your spots. So you know when your liquid bucket is running low. If it's coinciding with the market also being high, like it was, say, at the end of September, you can then take a little bit of risk off the table and replenish your bucket. What this does is it takes out the what's killed the average investor. So the average investor actually averages less than inflation on their stock portfolios because they always sell at the worst time and buy at the worst time, because they let fear and greed dictate their decisions. When you've time segmented your money, then you're never going to let fear take control of your decisions, because you always have cash on hand to meet your expenses for emergencies or whatnot.
So you can survive through what would normally be a panic-inducing situation.
Correct.
You know that you've smoothed out.
Correspondingly, when things are going really well, you say to yourself, well, this is doing even better than I expected. Let me take a little bit of risk off the table and replenish my cash, and thereby eliminating the greed in the decision making as well.
Now, with that kind of decision making, we're getting pretty nuanced to where this does not seem like do-it-yourself type of activity. How often should somebody be meeting with their financial advisor to review, to make these decisions?
Ideally every 3 months, but certainly you'd want to be doing 1 or 2 face-to-face meetings a year at a minimum.
Now, when you meet with clients and folks that want to become your clients, do you go through I imagine there's got to be a lot of questions that need to be asked. So even on an ongoing basis with somebody life changes so much.
Correct. So typically when we do an initial consultation, we're going to be really crafting the well-defined goal and creating a plan. But one of the things that once you become a client, and the most important and critical part of planning in retirement, is ongoing review, because your life changes. And your expenses change, right? So maybe you have a child getting married. Maybe you have a child that moves back in. Maybe you have a child that goes through a divorce and loses a bunch of money, or has a gambling problem. Maybe your health changes. So all these things, they happen during life, but they also happen in retirement.
And that's, that brings up a great part of the book a little bit later on, was the section on planning for the unexpected, all the way down. I've never seen this in another book, even down to natural disasters, which we just had a big hurricane in Florida.
Right. So we tend to think of stuff as unexpected, but it can actually reasonably be expected, right? So if you have a child, an adult child that's been draining your finances for the 30 or 40 years of their life,
sure,
they don't magically stop when you turn 65. So you should plan that I'm going to have to help. We all want the best for our kids.
Sure.
But I mean, you should plan that's going to continue. If you live in an area that's prone to hurricanes, you should plan that there could be a storm, right?
There might be one coming.
Right. And there's also the natural disasters that we do to ourselves, right? It's very possible at some point in your retirement you're going to slip and fall and break a tooth, need dentures, need dental implants. These are expenses that people consider unexpected, but they're not. It's reasonable to expect them.
Another one that's interesting is not only it's almost like a barbell. You've got the adult children that you might be helping, but you also have aging
elderly
parents. Yeah.
Right. And that's not just a financial drain, that can be an emotional drain as well. So, and it's very difficult to watch, as parents age, and it can take a lot of time out of your day. And if you're nearing retirement, you're not retired yet, those hours are very precious. You need to be working. You need to be working and earning and doing the things that you need to do to get yourself ready for your retirement.
Now, I've been teasing a little bit on this, and we're going to talk in just a second on how do you find a financial advisor, and how do you know if the financial advisor that you have is the right person. So we're going to talk about that right after the break with Right on the Money here. More with Steve when we come back.